This is Ryan from the band Little King, and you are listening to the Brutally Delicious podcast. Enjoy.
One, two, three, four. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast.
This is 70,000 Tons of Metal, the original, the world's biggest heavy metal cruise. 60 bands, 4 days, 1 cruise ship, only 3,000 tickets. It's like having an all-access backstage pass. January 29th to February 2nd, 2026. From Miami, Florida to Nassau, the Bahamas, and back. Go to 70,000tons.com and book now.
I think one of the things I like doing this show for is to come across bands that I've never heard of before or, get turned on to new music and that sort of thing. So for those in the same boat as myself, can you give us like the 2-sentence elevator boardroom pitch for Little King?
Sure. So we have been around since 1997, releasing records, and we have our 8th album coming out, which is called Lente Viviente. That comes out this Friday, actually. September 26th. The best descriptors I've heard of our band are progressive, melodic, dynamic rock in some order, whatever order you choose. We have moments of heaviness. We certainly have moments of more ballady kind of acoustic things. I mean, certainly through the course of like 28 years, you cover a lot of ground if you're paying attention and if you care about progressing as an artist. And,
Sure.
hopefully your fans are growing along with you. So I think we touch a lot of bases, but as I said, the best descriptors I've heard are, I think dynamic first, because I think we go from pretty heavy to pretty light and then all points in between. And I think progressive less so because we're certainly not writing a bunch of 13-minute epics, maybe more neo-prog, I guess people call it now. And then definitely some heavy rock, because I grew up on the heavy rock of the early 80s and all the heavy rock of the 70s too. So that's where we are.
You mentioned, shoot, I just lost my train of thought.
It's okay. I do that every 5 seconds. You may have to rein me back in here
Oh
at
my
some
God.
point.
Yeah, no, I had it. Shoot, I
We're
don't
talking about progressive, melodic, dynamic. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to skip right now, but
it's
um,
okay.
oh, I know what I was gonna say. You mentioned that you try and differentiate record to record, and you have to progress and you have to grow. How much of the writing is thought about, hey, maybe our fans aren't going to take that journey with us, or do you just write and hope they do?
You write and hope they do. I think authenticity is what people crave in art. Even if it's not the most technically proficient or if it's not the best recording in the world, people in this day and age can really hear authenticity. And so if you're making the music that turns you on and that lights you up as a band, both as a collaboration and me just kind of coming into the process from the beginning with essentially a guitar sitting on my couch or sitting here in the studio playing, as long as I'm staying true to what it is that I want to produce at any given time, I think the fans and the new fans, because let's be honest, we're out there still trying to always gain new followers and new people. I think they'll latch on to the fact that wow, this is a really honest effort. So I don't necessarily keep in mind, oh, I've got to progress. How am I going to progress this album? It's not really that. It's more along the lines of, especially after 8 albums, and all these years, not repeating yourself. It's like the old guy, at the nursing home,
Yeah,
not wanting to talk about, the same story 347 times. Like, yeah, Grandpa, I heard that one. I remember that. Yeah, I can finish your story for you. I don't want to
right.
be that way. So there is a lot of editing that goes into the process in terms of listening back to the old catalog, even before we dive into the writing process. But then again, particularly, you don't want to repeat hooks. You don't want to repeat a particular time signature in a particular tempo in a particular key. That's derivative. And so more than anything else, the authenticity and just, making sure that I'm not retreading on old ground. There are always going to be themes that are recurrent throughout the albums. That makes us, that makes Little King, Little King. And I'm totally comfortable with that and understanding of it. But I don't want to sound like we're trying to do Little King's greatest hits. That's not what I want to do. And I think with this record, we've superseded, honestly, anything that we've ever done in the past. And I know that's a common thing for an artist to say, especially after all this time, but it is what it is, and it's true. And I think the combination of the writing and certainly the players, who are 2 different guys for the first time on this album, have taken us to a place I'm really, really pleased with the results, for sure.
And I think a lot of it is timely, right? Because a lot of it speaks to where we've been as, I guess, Americans or whatever, the world even for the last 5 years, six
Yeah.
years, I think.
At
It's
least
very cathartic, probably too, as well, right?
there's some catharsis with all of my writing. I think a lot of people wait for the muse. I hear that a lot from my friends and from my artists. And a song idea or a theme will hit them on the road or hit them in the middle of the night and they have to get up and write. I get inspiration all the time from what's going on around me. I live a pretty full life, not just with music, but as a son and as a parent of a couple kids, as a single dad, as someone who also runs a business on the side, and I'm just a busy dude. So I have to say, this is the month we're going to create a record. This is the time I'm going to sit down and write. I have to bring a certain amount of almost like, I hate to say it, but it's like it's not really very punk rock, but it's almost like this corporate discipline of like a timeline and getting to do it. And then once I sit down and I've made up my mind that it's time to write and I focus myself on the task at hand, if you're short of inspiration or if you're short of things to look for in your writing, I don't understand the term writer's block, dude. It doesn't make any sense to me. Walk outside, take a walk, touch grass, as they say, right? Really get some, just get a sense of what's going on around you in your life and outside of your life. And as you were alluding to before, just things as the way the world is and as the way we're looking at ourselves, I think through different lenses than we've ever looked at ourselves before. Now, some of them not rose-colored glasses by any means. So, yes, there is a ton of inspiration, and certainly the last couple albums, Amused Q came out in 2021, and that was really successful for us. And it was basically my reflections on the pandemic and the band's reflections on the pandemic. This is sort of the Amused Q Redux Part Two, without being too repetitive, right? There is a certain similar through line to the two albums. So yes, certainly reflective of our times and my time here in downtown Tucson, which I know we can talk about a little bit too, but just the things I see on the daily basis as we're sort of on the front lines of immigration and certainly the influx of fentanyl and drugs and homelessness and some problems that I see on, right outside that door. I see them every single day. So yes, I was certainly inspired by that. And I think that's always the case for Little King albums, to be honest with you.
Think music when it's real and organic, and you can totally disagree with me, but I think it has a way of like shining a mirror back on society. So you look at like the 60s, they did it with, the Vietnam and the civil unrest and the civil rights and all that kind of stuff. And into the 70s, they had that, hey, here's what's going on. And I think it's been like that through every decade or every generation, right?
Well, if it depends on what your aims are as an artist. Everybody's in this for different reasons. I think a lot of people that are songwriters really are focused on drawing from their very personal experiences, whether it's romantic interests or, challenges or struggles or successes in life or, just as the world relates to them. And that's great. And, I'm an old English teacher. Actually, that was one of my 97 careers back in the day. And we were certainly always teaching. And then, when I was in college, we were always taught to write what you know. That brings the best air of verisimilitude of reality to your writing. People can tell that you're convicted about the things that you're singing about or that you're writing about, and I think that's true to a certain extent, but I don't want that inherent narcissism to creep in all the way. I do want to make sure that even if I'm writing about something that's very personal to me, and there are some songs on this album that are, there's still enough of a global perspective. There's still something that's relatable enough that it's not Ryan singing about Ryan all the time. I don't like that guy. I don't want to be that guy. And so I
Right.
am certainly in the composition process and the writing process conscious of not just having things so, hyper focused on myself and my life. There's so much going on. It's a shame to not pay attention of our little time capsule, the time that we've been given in our life, our little timeline, our linear timeline, and not to at least have some commentary on what's going on around you, stepping outside of yourself a little bit.
You ever feel like you put too much of yourself into a song, too vulnerable?
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, Bruce, sure. I mean, I don't have any regrets about that. So, I mean, do I have a moment, sometimes at the end when these songs are coming out or, when I'm singing them or recording, I'm like, "Ew, that's going to open up Pandora's box a little bit." I do have some of those moments. There's a song on the new record called Kindness for Weakness. I think it's the fourth song on the album. And it really is sort of a reflection on how the whole album is about perception. It's called Lente Viviente, and there's a lot of metaphors for lenses and reflection of light and perspectives and nostalgia. And so that song kindness for weakness in particular is a reflection on how I look at myself versus how other people look at me through their lenses. We're all looking at things through unique perspectives. There is no uniform truth. It's all just a matter of the combination of your different experiences and your DNA. And I think a lot of people look at me in one way, and I certainly don't feel inside the way I think a lot of people look at me. I'm not a tough guy. I'm pretty soft inside, So I
Right.
think those are the kinds of things that yes, it's a personal perspective. It's a sort of an inside joke to a lot of the people, in terms of how I look at myself. But by the same token, I think it's really relatable. And as I've rolled the song out to people, it seems to be really relatable to a lot of people. It's like, don't mistake my kindness for weakness. And I think that's a pretty indicative of kind of how the lyrics go for the rest of the album, and
Sure.
really through most of my catalog.
You said something interesting there. I think you'll find, especially in the metal community that I've been embedded in for 40 years, that the big tough guys that you think are gonna like, I don't know, sacrifice a bat or do some bullshit are the biggest teddy bears in the world and the
Yeah.
nicest guys.
Yeah, I've spent enough time with those dudes. I certainly don't consider our music metal by any means, but a lot of my friends and a lot of other bands I've jammed with and stuff are metal bands. My old drummer Eddie Garcia, who played with us for 20 years, has recorded 5 albums with me. He's really my brother and musical partner, huge part of my legacy. He's the toughest guy in the world. El Paso, Texas, the El Paso thrash scene. No fucking joke, dude. That place is no joke. Like I've been everywhere, and no one goes harder than my friends in El Paso. That's just a straight up fact. And he's the biggest teddy bear in the world. And I've toured with Overkill and met those guys a bunch of times backstage and hung out with them. Nicest guys in the world. Didi and Bobby. Those guys are cordial. It is really funny. I think it's marketing, right? I mean, let's be clear. There is an element of
Yes.
marketing to it, but at the end of the day, yeah, we're just, especially now that we're all getting into our 50s and 60s. I'm 53, and
Yes.
and I mean, what am I going to do? Walk down the street looking for a brawl? It just doesn't. It's really inauthentic at this point.
Yeah.
So
No, 100% agree. So let's
yeah,
can I ask you some out of the box questions just to mix things
anything,
up a bit?
of course.
So, you guys have a tattoo tradition? Is that what I read?
I have a tattoo tradition.
You have a tattoo.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to put anything on my body, it's going to have to be unique and it's going to have to be meaningful. Otherwise, it's just not going. So, actually, these are all of the albums, basically releases 1 through 10. So, Trans Mountain in 1997, just the crown that I drew. This is Time Extension in '98, and that was it's the Circle of Time. So it's Alpha, Omega, and Infinity, basically in a loop. This is Virus Divine, 2004, Legacy of Fools, 2008, OD1s, 2014, Occam's Foil, 19, A Music Q, 21, Silver Tongue, 23, Amber Waves, 23, and then the freshie is right here. So that was just
Nice.
2 weeks ago. That's Lente Viviente. And it's actually funny if you can see it. Like if you look at the album cover, the band is in the lens, right? Because it was, it seemed clever at the time.
Right.
What I didn't think about is the tattoo tradition that you're talking about. It's like I told Dave and Tony, I'm like, guys, I love you to death. You were brothers. I'm not putting your face on my body. It's not happening. So here we are. Nice,
Through the
neat little
lens.
lens circles. Ah, got it. Yeah, clever as hell, right? So yeah, like I love you, Dave. I saw him a couple days ago in Texas. I was there for a funeral, unfortunately, and I saw him. He's like, dude, let me see the tattoo, and I'm like, well, you might like it, but you might also be disappointed. I'm not wearing your face, bro. So that's where we're at.
Nice. So I
Yeah.
don't see any lyrics. If you could put any Little King lyric on your arm, forearm, I've got some, and I can't see
Yeah.
that, but if
Here,
you could do
here,
that, what
maybe.
would you
Yeah.
put on there?
Ooh, that's tough. I mean, first of all, I kind of have a tradition of no words on my body. I don't know
Oh,
why that is.
okay.
I feel like in 10,000 years, when the aliens dig me up, they won't be able to read the language. They'll be able to like understand the image.
Hey,
That's actually a thing. I would say there's a line from a song called Collateral Damage, which I wrote in 2007, 2008. And it's essentially kind of my screed on the Iraq war at the end of it. I was pretty fucking pissed, about what was going on. And the line in the chorus is, you've got a weapon, so don't be afraid. The truth makes a point like a sword when you wield it. And I think that's probably as cool as anything I've ever written. It still seems apropos of our current situation. So
okay. Your songs, you guys describe them as micro, I can't speak today, micro epics under four
yeah.
minutes. So assuming we're looking at the new record, because I can't pronounce that, so I'm not going to try. But
Lente Viviente, very easy. Lente
Lente Viviente.
Viviente. That's it. You got it.
Okay, that's why I've been avoiding it because I didn't want to butcher it.
Ah, Lente Viviente, Lente Viviente. Está bien.
So if you could turn one of those tracks into a short film, a graphic novel, which track would it be?
Yeah, it's actually probably the longest song and second to last song. It's called Pass Through Filters. And my observations, as I was mentioning earlier, my studio and office is in downtown Tucson, and we're in the midst of, the kind of the front lines of a lot of immigration issues and certainly a lot of drugs and homelessness issues. And it's really just sort of my observations and befriending a lot of people down here who are really down on their luck or, going through some rough circumstances. So I think there's a lot of very vivid imagery in that song. I think the music also kind of lends itself to being sort of cinematic and theatrical. So I would say definitely say Pass Through Filters would be one. Maybe Who's Illegal, which is the third song on the album. It's also, you know, I live in a place in downtown Tucson. It's 250 years ago was when it was settled. The Spanish built a fort here called the Presidio, and so this land has been changing hands over thousands of years, but it's changed hands over and over again in the last, since 1775, which is when they built the fort. So it's really interesting how people have been illegal at one time, quote unquote, legal at other times. Their families for 10 or 15 or 20 generations have been occupying the same land. It's just sort of arbitrarily like, here's a river, here's a line, here's a map. And so that one's pretty cinematic and theatrical as well. So I think either one of those would be cool.
Okay. And when you're writing these songs, are you writing the songs like how it's going to come across on the stage, or are you writing a song for the song's sake and then adapting them for the live
Yeah,
setting?
great questions. I'm writing them for the song's sake and then adapting them. I know that I make it difficult on myself sometimes. We're not a true progressive rock band, as I was saying before. We've kind of got some progressive elements to it, but it's not crazy epics, 200, 48 beats per minute, stop, start, stop, start. But there is some complexity to these. So I've kind of just let go of worrying about having to deal with it live and just written it from my heart. Now, the caveat to that is that there are not a ton of guitar overdubs on this album. We are a three-piece live most of the time, unless we bring some, additional instrumentation for fun. But at our core, we're three-piece. So soloing over pre-recorded guitars live is fucking never going to happen for me. I don't play the tracks ever. It's just not what I do. And so I do make some allowances, how it's going to come across live without having a ton of guitar overdubs, especially on this album. I was more conscious of that than I've ever been before with Lente Viviente. But as far as the structure and as the composition of the songs, I want them to be the best song they can be, irrespective of how difficult it's going to be. And I'm fucking woodshedding, dude. Like I'm in the middle of it right now, in the studio and learning these songs, relearning these songs after having recorded them on guitar and singing. I'm sure you hear this a lot with the dudes you talk to and the gals that you talk to. There is a process. It's usually about 8 weeks to be perfect, and I'm in week 4 now, and I'm actually working with a vocal coach. I'm actually Zoe from the old singer from Cradle of Filth, she's
Oh
going through her own
yeah, I
stuff.
just talked to her
Yeah,
the other day.
oh yeah, she was just here 20 minutes ago in my studio.
That's funny.
She's a Tucsonan as well, and she's actually my vocal coach now. So we're just started working together, and she's amazing and such a nice person and super smart and talented and everything. So yeah, there's another fellow Tucsonan for you. There's some connection. They're reaching out to you, dude. That's what's going on.
A lot of metal, I think, from Tucson. Is that where Priest is from? Are they from over in Halford? Is he in
Nah,
Phoenix?
Phoenix is really, I mean, Phoenix is the big city, obviously. So there's a more of a scene up there. Maricopa County, which is Phoenix and Tempe and Mesa and Chandler and Gilbert and all of those outlying cities, that's like 4.2 million people. It's huge. It's like Philly, or bigger even,
Gotcha.
if you include the whole county. So Tucson's a million, so it's about a little less than a quarter of the size. And the city of Tucson itself is only about 600,000. So there's
Gotcha.
less of a scene, but I would say there's a hardcore scene here. People are very supportive. I mean, I've lived all over the place on the East Coast. I've been back there too, and I will say that there's a small but aggressively loyal scene here, and that's a fucking cool thing to see because it isn't like that, as you well know,
Right.
everywhere. You know,
100%.
yeah,
What's this look like for you on the road? You taking this out?
yeah. I mean, just a few shows this fall. We'll do Southwest, just local. So El Paso, which is my home away from home, and where I've done most of my work in my life. Tucson and Phoenix, where I am now. We'll go down to Mexico. It looks like I'd play a few shows, which is cool. Tony, the drummer, is from San Carlos, Mexico. And if you look that up on the map, actually, dude, it's a really cool spot. It's on the beach on the Sea of Cortez, like about 5 hours south of maybe 4 hours south of the border, but it's right on the water and it's a little town. And so he's from there. There's a really good rock scene in Hermosillo and San Carlos and Guaymas, some of those cities in Sonora, which is the state just south of Arizona. So we'll do that. But the focus next year is going to be festivals. And we're looking at certainly the UK in the summer, and then hopefully, some stuff in the EU as well. Finances permitting, dude, like shit's insane right now. Everything's insane. And I'm
That's what
not
I hear.
fixing to I'm not fixing to take another bath on the road. Like I've been there and I've done that. And I'm a responsible adult. I got shit to pay, you know. So it's like and
Right.
I'm not asking my crew or my, the guys in my band to take one for the team. Like we're just not doing that. It's not how we do things. So I think I can make it work. I think the success of this album hopefully propels us to a place where we can be in a little better, situation in terms of our finances. Time will tell, but it's a bucket list thing for me, dude. Like I've been to Europe a lot, but I've never played over there, and we do well. Like our music, Little King music, is suited for the UK and for the Netherlands and for Germany and Denmark and just all the EU. To be honest with you, Western Europe. So we need to get our asses over there. We need to play in front of people, and I think that hopefully. The rest of it takes care of itself. Then that would be next, starting like next May and June.
Well, that brings me to the end of what I had. Did I miss something you wanted to cover? I think we pretty much went through it all.
I think we're good, dude. If there's anything else you can think of, just
Yeah.
email
I
me
mean,
for
I know some
clarity or
are a
whatever.
little out the box, but I like to be just a little bit different. So
Please do, God, dude. We answer the same stupid questions a lot. It's nice to have something that's not quite the same. I appreciate that very
I've
much.
got three more have nothing to do with the band at all, but I
Sure.
need to know. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No, hot dog's a hot dog.
No, it has to be a sandwich. Why?
No, because it's a
What's the
hot dog.
definition of a sandwich? Hold on,
It's
let's
got a,
back
di-
up.
it's got a different name. Well, the definition of a sandwich would be two pieces of bread, one on top, one on the bottom.
So your hang up is the little shit holding it together?
Yeah, a little bit. But it's
So if I
also that
cut,
it's appropriate enough, or it's iconic enough that it's got its own name. So to me, like, is a burger a sandwich?
I mean, in my book, then it has to be.
Okay, technically maybe, but in the like colloquial, like, no, dude, I think it's a hot dog.
Is cereal a soup?
Um, Cereal a soup? God, I've never thought about that. That's an interesting one. Um, yes,
Has to be.
it's like borscht, right? There's cold soup,
Yeah.
vichyssoise.
Yeah, you're one for
Yeah.
two.
Right on. Hey, I mean, I'll preface all this shit by saying I'm a vegetarian, dude. I have been for 30 years. So we're talking about vegetarian hot dogs and vegetarian cereal.
All
Yeah.
right, so one more. You're on a deserted island or wherever you end up in the desert somewhere, and you can only take three CDs for eternity, assuming you've got a solar powered player. What are you taking?
Mm. I'm taking Bitches Brew by Miles Davis. And it's not even my favorite album, but there's enough going on in there that it would keep you occupied for the rest of your life. I'm taking Exit Stage Left by Rush for sure. It's a collection of what I consider to be the highlights of the best part of their existence. I mean, I'm a huge fan, but just that recording and the performances and just that shit's iconic. So that's probably the second one. And the third one is tough. I am such a huge Pink Floyd, Zeppelin, and Steely Dan fan that maybe one of those three bands. Let's go with Asia by Steely Dan. I can always find something new in there. It's always very soothing. It always puts me in a good mental place. Sonically, it's phenomenal. It's one of the best sounding albums ever. So let's say Asia by Steely Dan is the third one.
Well, Ryan, that's all I've got then. I
Great,
know you
man.
didn't expect that twist, but what the hell? We have some fun anyway, right?
I love it, dude. Anytime. Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Appreciate your support and your help. Thank you.
Absolutely. If fans want to find you, can you give us all your socials?
Yeah, everything is at Little King Tunes. Tunes like Tunes, like songs, not like cartoons. So Little King Tunes everywhere. And then littlekingtunes.com, our website's pretty updated all the time and has links to, basically the last seven albums. So you can find pretty much everything there. We're active on social media. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but certainly if you want to know about our band, you want to keep up and kind of see our personalities and things like that, it's clearly out there for everyone.